The air was freezing. Not cold, freezing in a way that burned the lungs with every breath. Above the black waters of the North Atlantic, the stars shined brighter than anyone aboard had ever seen. There was no moon that night. Only darkness. Endless darkness. And cutting through it like a floating kingdom was the pride of mankind itself. RMS Titanic. The largest ship ever built. A ship so massive, so luxurious, so advanced, that newspapers called her unsinkable. Inside, first-class passengers drank champagne beneath golden chandeliers. Wealthy families laughed in warm dining halls while orchestras played elegant music. In the lower decks, immigrants heading to America dreamed about new lives waiting for them across the ocean. No one believed they were sailing toward death. It was April 14, 1912. Just before midnight. And somewhere ahead, hidden in the darkness, an iceberg drifted silently through the Atlantic. Waiting. Earlier that day, multiple warnings had reached the Titanic's wireless room. Other ships reported dangerous ice fields directly in Titanic's path. But aboard the Titanic, confidence ruled everything. Captain Edward Smith was one of the most experienced captains in the world. This was supposed to be his final voyage before retirement. The crew trusted him completely. And the ship itself felt invincible. Passengers walked the decks wrapped in coats against the bitter wind. Children played inside warm cabins. Some couples stood beneath the stars, staring at the calm ocean that looked as smooth as glass. That calmness was dangerous. Without waves breaking against icebergs, spotting them became nearly impossible. High above the deck, in the crow's nest, two lookout men scanned the darkness with tired eyes. No binoculars. Only their vision. The night grew colder. The sea grew quieter. Then, at 11:40 p.m., one of the lookouts froze. Straight ahead, a dark shape appeared from the blackness. Huge. Dead ahead. Iceberg right ahead. The warning bell rang 3 times. Below deck, officers reacted instantly. First Officer William McMaster Murdoch ordered the ship to turn hard to port while engines reversed at full power. But the Titanic was too enormous. Too slow to move in time. For a few terrifying seconds, the iceberg scraped along the starboard side of the ship. Passengers barely felt anything. Some thought it was nothing more than a vibration. But below the waterline, steel plates buckled inward. The iceberg had ripped open multiple compartments. Seawater exploded into the ship. Crew members stared in horror as freezing Atlantic water rushed through the lower decks like a flood unleashed from hell. The Titanic could survive 4 flooded compartments. But 6 had been breached. The ship was doomed. Designer Thomas Andrews inspected the damage himself. When he returned to Captain Smith, his face had gone pale. "She will sink," he admitted quietly. Less than 3 hours remained. Captain Smith stood silent. The impossible had happened. The unsinkable ship was dying. At first, passengers didn't understand the danger. Why would they? The lights still worked. The music still played. Stewards told people there was no real danger. Some passengers even laughed when ordered to put on life jackets. Others refused to leave the warmth of the ship. But deep below, third-class passengers began hearing terrifying sounds. Water rushed through corridors. Boilers hissed. Metal groaned beneath pressure. The freezing Atlantic climbed deck by deck. Panic slowly spread. Distress rockets exploded into the night sky. White flares lit the darkness above the ocean. Nearby ships were too far away. And the closest vessel, the SS Californian, failed to respond in time. Aboard Titanic, the orchestra continued playing music to calm passengers. Even as death approached. Then came the lifeboats. The terrible truth emerged quickly. There were not enough. Titanic carried over 2,200 people. But lifeboats existed for only around half. Women and children were ordered forward first. Families were ripped apart within minutes. Husbands kissed wives goodbye. Mothers clutched terrified children. Some men accepted death quietly. Others begged to survive. One survivor later remembered hearing women cry from lifeboats while men remained standing silently on deck, smoking cigarettes as the icy sea rose closer. Many lifeboats left only half full because passengers still believed the Titanic was safer than the freezing ocean. They didn't yet understand. The ship was dying faster every minute. Around 2 a.m., the bow had sunk deep into the Atlantic. Water flooded the grand staircase. Furniture floated through corridors. Electric lights flickered. The angle of the ship became terrifying. People slipped across tilted decks screaming into the night. Now panic truly erupted. Crowds surged toward the remaining lifeboats. Some crew members fired warning shots to hold people back. The band still played. Not for glory. Not because they believed rescue was coming. But because music was the only thing left between civilization and chaos. Then the lights went out. Completely. Darkness swallowed the Titanic. For one horrifying moment, thousands of people stood trapped on a dying ship beneath the stars. Then came the sound survivors would remember forever. The ship itself began breaking apart. Steel screamed like a living creature. The massive Titanic snapped in two. The stern rose high into the air while terrified passengers clung to railings, sliding helplessly toward the ocean. Then the great ship plunged beneath the Atlantic. Gone. At 2:20 a.m. Silence returned to the ocean. But only for a moment. Then came the screams. Hundreds of people floated in water so cold it killed within minutes. Some prayed. Some cried for their mothers. Some simply screamed into the darkness begging for help that could not reach them. The temperature of the water was below freezing. Bodies shut down almost instantly. One by one, the voices disappeared. Until the ocean became silent again. Hours later, the RMS Carpathia finally arrived. What they found was horrifying. Lifeboats drifting through endless darkness. Frozen bodies floating in life jackets. Broken debris scattered across the Atlantic. More than 1,500 people had died. Entire families vanished. Millionaires. Crewmen. Immigrants. Children. The greatest ship in the world now rested at the bottom of the ocean. And with it sank humanity's belief that technology alone could conquer nature. The disaster shocked the entire world. Newspapers everywhere carried the same unbelievable headline. The Titanic had sunk. And even today, more than a century later, the story of that night still survives, not just because a ship was lost. But because, in those final hours, the Titanic revealed humanity at its absolute best and absolute worst. Courage. Fear. Sacrifice. Greed. Love. Panic. Honor. Death. All trapped together on one freezing night in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.